So I've asked the woman that I'm going to speak about now, her children were adopted. And she had been in care. When she was 19, she'd had a premature baby. And because she had been scared to pick up the baby, they had taken her into a mother and baby home to assess whether she could care for the baby. And then she'd passed the assessment. But then her partner had become violent when they had subsequent children. And, I don't know. They had been referred to children's services. And in the space of, I think about 7 months, they'd had 9 social workers because there was such a high staff turnover. They hadn't had a single case conference or with the same social worker at 2 meetings in a row. And then they finally, by the July, got a permanent social worker, but by which point she was traumatised by his violence, trying very, very hard. She had attended parenting classes because they'd asked her to. She had tried to keep him away from the house, but he had decided that he wanted her children gone. And so he told the social workers he wouldn't be leaving her alone, and didn't. And the police wouldn't lift him because he kept giving them information. And she couldn't use a refuge because there wasn't one. And she couldn't leave the town where she lives because it's the only support she's got. She's got an IQ of about 92. And she assumed they would take her children into care until she had dealt with the violence issue. And then found out, no, there had been a public law outline. And permanence was needed to be decided within 26 weeks. So even though she'd done everything that they asked, I was at the barrister's meeting with her, and the barrister said, I'm really sorry. They're going to conclude that because he won't leave you alone, and because even though we will argue that professionals should be supporting you in doing that, the responsibility will come down to you. And they did. Julie adopted her children 3 weeks after Christmas. And then she was chased for the bedroom tax, and she was chased by the housing authority where he'd broken a door with her head for the cost of the door. And I want this story to have like a dramatic happy ending, but this happened in plain sight. And now she can't talk about it because people assume she was to blame. In actual fact, there were no incidents that she'd done. Nothing. I had an advocacy case for a social care user. An adult, 92, had been asked by her son to assist firing her carer. I got there and she was shaking. And I kind of established what was going on, and then about 3/4 of the way I was like, you're still shaking? Yes. She's got my keys. So we changed her locks. What did the local authority say? Don't get taken to tribunal. Okay. And we managed to get a prosecution because the carer had stolen £900 from her, but there's no... I have a boy I know in Hebden Bridge who I've known by a variety of flukes since I was about 4, since I lived in Rochdale, actually. In fact, yeah, when did I meet him? Probably when I was about 9, actually. And then, by some fluke, he also lives in Hebden Bridge, but he has learning disabilities. And for 8 years, he has been living in a nightmare of being half-starved because he can't maintain a job seeker's allowance claim. But, you know, and that's 8 solid years. But the institutions which are doing this don't know. We don't know how to switch them off now because the academic disciplines that should know don't. The think tanks certainly don't. And the trade unions and newspapers who said they were the voice of these systems actually spent 8 years preventing anybody discussing the rule of law being undermined because they thought it was their socialist revolution. Because apparently identifying as as a socialist at Oxford means that you have to literally abuse people to stop them discussing the rule of law being undermined. I don't know. The situation that we're at the moment is that the rule of law has been undermined and the country's unstable as a consequence. This playlist was largely explaining to you what I meant by the rule of law, I think.